It's a new edition of the Bigfoot Journal, your twice-monthly Bigfoot news update. What happened and what's ahead in Bigfoot research and news, only on the Untold Radio Network. The Bigfoot Journal is now. With your host, Mike Luci.
Okay, we are good to go. Alright, and welcome to our 7th installation of the Bigfoot Journal, your bi-weekly review of what happened and what's ahead in the Bigfoot world. If it's your first time joining us, let me tell you how this works. We swoop the internet every other week, highlight the top Bigfoot reports and news stories, and share our findings in a fast-paced 30-minute time frame. Here are this episode's top stories. We'll start by covering the escape of 43 primates in South Carolina, how it happened, and if this incident could lead to a spike of cryptid sightings in and around that area. Our Report Roundup has the full scoop on those mysterious trail cam photos coming out of Indiana. Plus, we're taking a deep dive in the potential correlation between Bigfoot sightings and berries. What could this tell us about when and where Bigfoot sightings may occur, and can it up your odds of having a potential encounter? We've got a lot to unpack this episode and not much time to do it, so ready or not, we're getting this started.
News and updates are now.
We are getting started this episode by covering a hot button story coming out of South Carolina. Earlier this month, 43 rhesus macaque monkeys escaped from the Alpha Genesis Research Facility in Yemassee, South Carolina. We'll dive into how it happened, if they pose a threat to the general public, and why this incident could cause a potential spike in cryptid sightings around that area. For more on this story, here's Chuck Larson.
According to reports, the monkeys broke free on Wednesday, November 7th after an employee failed to securely lock one of their enclosures. Although most of them are staying close to the research facility, some have allegedly been spotted up to 1 mile outside of downtown Yemassee. Facility workers are using food and traps to try and recapture them, and have recovered 25 of the escaped primates as of recording this segment, with 18 still at large. The escaped macaques are female and primarily used for vaccine research against diseases like COVID-19, HIV, and other pathogenic illnesses. Although the macaques were bred for medical research, officials say they pose almost no danger and haven't been infected with any diseases. The most recent federal inspection reported that 6,700 primates were housed in the Alpha Genesis Research Facility. Macaques grow up to the size of a cat and weigh almost 7 pounds. Aside from rats and mice, macaques are one of the most researched animals for science purposes and have been studied since the 19th century. Researchers believe humans and macaques split apart from a common ancestor about 25 billion years ago and share about 93% of the same DNA. Primates have previously escaped from Alpha Genesis Yemassee Research Facility in 2014, 2016, and 2018, leading to fines and other sanctions imposed by the federal government. And while news about the escaped macaques was pretty widespread, can their presence in the local ecosystem still lead to a potential spike in cryptid sightings? What if some of them venture far enough from Yemassee where the awareness of their escape isn't as high, or elude capture and stay under the radar long enough for the story to blow over before being spotted? Could a brief glimpse at the right angle or distance cause a misidentification? And could a potential spike in cryptid sightings resulting from this escape help us differentiate more credible reports from cases of mistaken identity? I'll pass it back to Mike for a breakdown on this particular scenario.
Alright, so check out this video someone took of the escaped macaques. Now, if you watch this without any backstory or maybe even a skewed context, then one can argue someone could wildly misinterpret what this footage shows. Although we know these are rhesus macaques, how they appear here shares some common details with a lot of those so-called cryptid videos. A brief glimpse of the figures in question, and nothing more than dark, grainy shapes that barely reveal any telling details. Especially if this video resurfaces down the road with some deceptive editing and a fabricated backstory, who's to say this won't take some people for a ride? So check out this map from Reddit. It lists the ranges of different cryptids in each US state. Incidentally, I literally cover this exact topic back on This Week in Bigfoot. In episode 42 of the show, I examined the potential correlation between cryptid sightings and biolabs. What I found out was states with the highest numbers of different cryptids also have the most facilities and institutions that contain labs where animal testing for scientific research might occur. I looked at why it's possible that people could be mistaking escaped lab specimens for cryptids, especially if they're not native to the area, have major physical deformities, and they only get a brief glimpse. While I've yet to study similar trends like the spikes in cryptid sightings that might coincide with publicly disclosed escapes of animal test subjects, it's believed that most Bigfoot and other cryptid sightings are likely cases of mistaken identity. So perhaps this ongoing story could be the perfect case that puts this theory to the test. We'll definitely keep an eye out for any alleged cryptid sightings that might come out of this part of South Carolina, and we'll keep you updated on any major developments from the story. But ultimately, we hope the remaining macaques are safely returned without causing any harm or disruptions to the general public.
Pop culture news is now.
The question of Bigfoot. It's the focus of an upcoming full-length film that SURVIVORMAN host Les Stroud has in the works, where he'll aim to dissect all aspects of the Bigfoot phenomena, question by question and step by step. A Kickstarter campaign was recently set up to help Les fund the project, which has more details on the upcoming documentary, including a 2-minute teaser.
Back in 2014, I began work on a 10-part documentary series on the subject of Bigfoot.
Stroud says his upcoming documentary looks to examine the unanswered questions that remained after he filmed a 10-part series on the subject of Bigfoot, which Les said took him places he did not expect to go and gave him a perspective he did not expect to have. It seems the question of Bigfoot will examine talking points for and against its potential existence, by aiming to verify or debunk controversial talking points on the alleged creature's elusivity and physical capabilities. In addition to covering the specific angle, it looks like the film will also include eyewitness accounts, which the Kickstarter's campaign mentions how so many documentaries are, quote, nothing more than eyewitness account after eyewitness account. We've seen them all, and they grow stale, yet still, the questions are not answered, until now. Stroud's first delve into Bigfoot happened in Season 5 of his hit series SURVIVORMAN. It was a precursor to SURVIVORMAN Bigfoot, which spanned 7 episodes and covered Les's investigation into the mysterious topic. Ever since the season ended, Les has done multiple interviews and appearances at conferences to discuss his Bigfoot research and experiences. The Kickstarter launched on November 5th and is aiming to raise $36,000 by January 4th. As of recording this segment, it has already raised over $38,000 from 229 different backers. The Kickstarter offers 9 different reward levels for backers based on contributions that range anywhere from $20 CAD all the way up to $10,000 CAD. For our US viewers, that translates to range between $14 to $7,200 USD. In exchange for the contribution, each reward level offers a package that can feature a physical copy of the documentary, apparel, posters, even weekend squatching trips with Les. It looks like planning for the film is in its early stages, so we currently don't have any release date or timetable for the film's completion. You'll find more details on the question of Bigfoot and can become a backer on the film's Kickstarter page if you're interested. There's a link in the video's description, and we'll keep you posted on any major developments that arise.
Science is now.
If you're like most researchers and enthusiasts in this field, you probably believe Bigfoot is some sort of undiscovered great ape. This belief is largely based on their ape-like appearances. However, it goes way beyond that, and many researchers believe Bigfoot may possess other similarities that closely align them with great apes, which include humans, chimpanzees, gorillas, and orangutans. We'll look at 5 major traits Squatches allegedly have in common with great apes, and what they could tell us about Bigfoot's potential existence. We'll start with one of the most obvious ones, tools. All great ape species have been documented using sticks, rocks, and plants to forage for food, drink water, groom themselves as weapons, and even communication. Many Bigfoot reports describe these creatures throwing sticks, logs, and rocks. Great ape species like chimpanzees and gorillas have been observed doing the same thing in a playful manner, to express their emotions or show their dominance. Chimpanzees were even observed communicating with each other by drumming on trees. Now, I don't know about you, but that draws a lot of parallels to those so-called wood knocks Squatches supposedly make by banging sticks or stones against trees or other hard surfaces. Next, we'll look at the foul-smelling odor that's described in several Bigfoot reports. And if you believe Bigfoot is a great ape species, then this is an uncanny one, as large primates like gorillas have the exact same ability. Silverbacks, for example, release pheromones that emit a foul-smelling stench that warns other gorillas about impending danger, signals excitement or aggression, and to deter predators. Moreover, these pheromones can reach distances over 100 yards in the right conditions. Many Bigfoot witnesses claim they spotted these creatures closely watching them or other humans at far distances or in concealable locations. This behavior might be similar to when great apes closely observe other members of their species. That brings us to our third similarity: observation. Primates do this to understand the meanings of other apes' actions and body language cues. Orangutans, for example, engage in periods of intense observation known as peering. This helps them adapt to new territory by studying the actions of local orangutans. While Squatches may closely watch humans to gather similar information, many researchers believe they also do this out of curiosity or to monitor trespassers. Another potential similarity Bigfoot might share with great apes is nesting. All great ape species build nests to sleep in using sticks, leaves, and other plant materials. They can build multiple nests per day, but usually set them up off the ground. Some researchers believe this could give credence to the so-called Bigfoot nesting sites. Although most of these alleged nests were discovered in the Pacific Northwest, they've also been reported in other parts of North America. Lastly, Bigfoot are said to be both social and solitary creatures. Many researchers believe they either live on their own or in small groups. You see this among other great ape species. Orangutans, for example, are mostly solitary creatures. Gorillas typically live in family groups with 5 to 50 members, while chimpanzee communities can have up to 100 individuals. Since multiple Bigfoot reports describe seeing more than one creature, including juveniles and what appear to be parental figures, it's grounds to speculate that their social structures largely fall in line with great apes. What's especially interesting is that some of these similarities were allegedly reported in Bigfoot encounters prior to the discovery of some great ape species. It begs a question: could this give credence to Bigfoot's potential existence? And how likely is it that these specific details described in Bigfoot reports also wind up getting documented in other great ape species? Granted, this evidence is the most circumstantial and speculative, it can make you ponder if these potential similarities are merely a coincidence, or perhaps they reveal a pattern that signals they do have closer ties to us humans and our great ape counterparts.
Report Roundup is now.
Alright, and this is our Report Roundup. If they're out there, it's our part of the show that updates you on the latest reports from major databases and across the internet. We've got a lot to cover this episode, including reports coming out of Indiana, Ohio, possibly even Oregon and China. The Bigfoot Mapping Project posted a recent report coming out of Northeast Ohio. According to the witness, their sighting occurred on November 8th around 6 p.m. The witness claims they spotted two Bigfoot-like creatures that were standing on the side of the highway, almost as if they were waiting for traffic to pass. The report describes them as being black in color and around 7 feet tall. Both of them were also described as having glowing green eyes. Ironically, we have a new BFR report coming out of, you guessed it, South Carolina. While I literally just covered this exact topic in our lead story, this one doesn't appear to be the type of mistaken identity that fits the Yamasee story narrative. It happened in the town of Pomaria, which is over 100 miles northwest of Yamasee in Newberry County. A police officer claims they were hunting on their family's property around 6:30 a.m. when they heard a loud grunt and stomp. He turned and spotted a 7 to 7.5 foot tall figure with long brown/amber colored fur an ape-like face, and long arms. It was allegedly about 20 yards away from the witness's blind, who said they exchanged stares with the creature for about 30 seconds.
Here's something interesting that got posted on Reddit, but not in any of the Bigfoot or cryptid communities. This one got posted on the Eugene, Oregon subreddit. The Redditor claims they saw a dead monkey lying alongside I-5 earlier this month, about 100 miles south of Eugene. They said the carcass looked human. It was about the size of a chimpanzee, very hairy, and had outstretched arms. The OP says they called both Oregon Fish and Wildlife and a nearby wildlife safari, who said they accounted for all their monkeys. One observation the witness made was how that particular stretch of I-5 seemed to have an unusually high amount of roadkill. A few people who commented also claimed they saw the same figure on I-5. A few others who posted suggested it might be a bear, mangled deer, or lemur, while others believed it may in fact have been a young Sasquatch.
Here's one of the 2 interesting Facebook posts that caught our eye. Check out this video that allegedly captured footage of the Chinese urine. The video was posted on November 7th. The person filming was perched up in a tree and records what seems to be a bipedal figure covered in dark brown fur. The figure seems unaware of the person filming as it walks up to the tree, empties a basket filled with random items, and rummages through the nearby brush. We can't understand any of the voiceover commentary you hear, so if anyone watching can help us translate, make sure to get in touch. Now we're moving on to the You Decide part of our roundup, where we break down a notable photo, video, or other piece of potential Bigfoot evidence. Our goal here is to lay out all the facts and details so we can help you decide if it's the real deal. Here's Mike with this episode's breakdown.
So maybe you've seen these trail camera photos making rounds in several Bigfoot Facebook groups. A Facebook user posted them on November 4th, claiming they were taken by a trail camera on his property in Connersville, Indiana. It's a collection of 4 images that shows a blurry, human-shaped figure walking from left to right across the camera. According to the timestamp, these photos were taken on November 2nd between 3:27 and 3:28 a.m. They've been shared hundreds of times online, mostly by the Facebook user, enough to get covered in online outlets like iHeart.com and Coast to Coast AM. He included a daytime picture of the location where these photos were taken, and claims neighbors in the area have been hearing weird screams at night. While some believe these pictures could be the real deal, they've been getting their fair share of scrutiny. Many skeptics believe the photos show someone in a ghillie suit, they're CGI, or AI generated. It's also worth noting the Facebook user offered to sell autographed copies of the pictures, and briefly launched a GoFundMe to open a Bigfoot museum, which has since been removed. Photo was like... Before that, he even admits he took photos of other black bears.
Right.
So, I was a guest on our friend, the Squatch Detective Steve Cull's podcast, who provided extensive coverage of the photos on his YouTube channel, SquatchDTV. Culls pointed out some details about the images that he believes put their authenticity into question, like the timestamp not resembling any he's seen in trail camera photos, discrepancies with the metadata, and what he believes are some conflicting details in the Facebook user's story.
I do what I do, and that's...
I messaged the Facebook user directly and had a brief conversation with him about the pictures. I asked if he could get me the trail camera brand, and if he could take pictures of him standing by trees that were shown in the photos to get a height comparison of the figure. The Facebook user told me the trail camera was a cheap brand which was spray painted, preventing him from seeing any marks that revealed its brand. He was also unwilling to return where he set up the trail cameras, saying he didn't want to leave his scent in the area in case it was some sort of hotspot, which I guess makes sense. I tried brightening one of the photos to bring out more details of our figure, namely one that showed enough of its height and arm span to get some measurements. And as you can see, the ratio appears to look more human. Having said that, the figure is admittedly very blurry, so I suppose there's a margin of error to consider, but even so, I'm not sure it's enough to push the ratio into potential Bigfoot range. One big detail these photos have going for them though is its location. I did find multiple reports in the surrounding area on major databases like the BFRO and Bigfoot Mapping Project. Connersville is also not terribly far from a part of Indiana that had a spike of Bigfoot reports, including well-documented cases like the Fairview Horror. Hopefully this breakdown provided enough information to help you decide if these photos are a hoax, misidentification, or the real deal. Let us know in the comments what you think they show. Otherwise, that about does it for this episode's Report Roundup. Remember, if they're out there, you'll hear about them, and who knows, maybe the next one happens somewhere near you.
Bigfoot in history is now.
There's a lot of recurring details that seemingly emerge in Bigfoot reports, but one that I think deserves a closer look are their potential relationship with berries. Amid the countless reports that I've heard, a lot of them seem to happen near wild berry bushes, enough to warrant a deeper investigation and see if this alleged correlation could up your odds of potentially having your own encounter. If they're real, wild berries could be a potential food source for squatches, or perhaps they use them to land animals that feed off the bushes. Either way, the percentage of Bigfoot sightings that appear to overlap with the area's berry seasons seems to indicate they play some sort of role in Bigfoot ecology. Let me show you what I mean. This map shows which parts of North America have the highest number of wild berry species. Here's a snapshot of the Bigfoot Mapping Project's new map. Now let's look at them side by side. Right away, there appears to be some sort of overlap in the Pacific Northwest and Midwest, along with parts of the Southeast. And a deeper dive into the numbers reveals more telling information. I look at how much overlap Class A reports have with the 5 most common wild berry seasons: blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, strawberries, and barberries. For context, wild berry seasons usually begin in the spring and run through the fall. They typically start earlier in the warmer southern states and later in the colder northern ones. I looked at every Class A report on the BFRO's public database in the last 10 years, giving me 166 in total, and tallied how many occurred during the 5 most common wild berry seasons in the United States. Here's how they plotted out on a map I prepared. To clarify, the redder dots are sightings that happen earlier in the year. The bluer dots happen later in the year. As you can see, during berry season, this map seems to show more Class A reports happening earlier in the warmer southern states, while more sightings occur later in the colder northern states. I took it a step further and broke down the numbers to identify any additional emerging trends. To do this, I divided the United States into 6 regions: the Northeast, Southeast, Midwest, Rocky Mountains, Northwest, and Southwest. I calculated each region's average individual and aggregated timeframes for blueberry, blackberry, raspberry, strawberry, and barberry seasons, and tallied how many Class A sightings occurred. Over 36% of Class A reports I examined, a plurality, happened during their respective region's average aggregated wild berry seasons. In the warmer states, 41% of Class A reports happened between March and June, while in the colder northern states, 2/3 of Class A reports happened later in the season between July and October. So this trend seems to happen a lot more up north, which I suppose makes sense, considering how the colder states go through warm and cold seasons and food isn't as steadily abundant year-round. And to that point, the 2 regions with the highest percentage of Class A reports that coincided with their average aggregated wild berry seasons were the Northeast and Northwest. These are the 2 parts of the country that have the greatest abundance of wild berries. I also looked at the percentage of Class A reports that happen in every region during each wild berry's individual season. For blueberry season, the highest percentage of Class A's were in the Northeast and Northwest. It was in the Southeast and Southwest during blackberry season, the Rockies and Northwest during raspberry season, and in the Northeast during barberry season, with over 63% of sightings, the highest regional percentage for any berry. Why is this significant? Because for each berry, the regions where Class A percentages were highest also happen to be where these berries are most common in the United States. Now granted, there's certainly other variables to consider that could impact the shaping of this pattern, but with the majority of Bigfoot sightings happening in the summer and fall months, could these findings we just covered be a big reason why they happen so often that time of year? As always, make sure to share your thoughts on this potential pattern between Bigfoot sightings and wild berries, because maybe, just maybe, if you follow it, it could potentially boost your odds of having a Bigfoot encounter in your area.
The Bigfoot spotlight is now.
Thanks for joining our Bigfoot Spotlight, the part of our show where we highlight a few recent Bigfoot live streams, films, and events. In this episode of Spotlight, we're featuring a new book, an upcoming cryptid magazine, a recent podcast, and a Christmas-themed event. Starting us off, it's a new book, and the author is looking for some feedback. The title of the book is The Eyes of the Forest by Blake Patrick. If you're one of the first 30 people to email him, you might be able to get the book for free. According to Blake, the book is a fictional story about a family of Bigfoot. When a group of hunters stumble too close to the territory, the Bigfoot clan must take drastic measures to stay hidden. Blake's email is blake.patrick.author@gmail.com, so make sure to shoot him an email and share your thoughts. Next, we have an upcoming magazine titled The Strange Knocks. Created by the CARC's own Gwen Purcell, this magazine will be for all cryptid, alien, UFO, supernatural, true crime, and paranormal enthusiasts. Gwen and her team are working hard to have the first issue out by January 2025. Make sure to follow Gwen's brand, Got Knockers, and the Stray Knocks Facebook page to stay updated. The podcast we'll be spotlighting is another Untold radio show, the Monster Soup Podcast, hosted by Dave Spencer and Brian McKinney. This episode, titled Cryptid Cocktail Hour Part 2.
So he had a head that was described as being too large or on an otherwise thin frame. He had an antennas coming out of his ears. He had basically like a fully speared head.
It's a fun conversation between Dave and Brian. They cover a range of different stories from hauntings and aliens to fairies, cryptids, and of course, Bigfoot. Dave and Brian recently premiered on Untold Radio Network and have been very entertaining to watch. Make sure you get a chance to check out their latest episode.
And his mouth was yellow lips shaped in an oval. So like imagine that face.
Finally, I have a Christmas theme event. It's Yeti Fest, which is happening at the West Virginia Bigfoot Museum and Mount Laurel Country Store in Sutton, West Virginia. Come out on Saturday, December 7th and meet Santa, the Yeti, and Bigfoot. The festivities start at 10 a.m. and go until 6 p.m. It will be a fun-filled day with hot chocolate, cookies, along with a bunch of craft and Bigfoot-themed vendors. And that does it for this episode's Bigfoot Spotlight. You can find more information about the content and events I covered in the video's description. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Mike, take us out.
Well, episode 7 has come to an end. Make sure to check the video's description for more information on the segments we covered. And if you haven't already, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share here at Untold and the CARC. If you have questions, a story to share, or want the CARC to investigate your Bigfoot encounter, shoot us an email or drop us a line in the comments. For Chuck Larson and Tobi Crum, I'm Mike Luci signing off. We appreciate each and every one of you for watching. It's been a pleasure. We'll see you again in 2 weeks.
Program is distributed by the Untold Radio Network. All rights reserved.